Good evening, everybody. Good evening, you all. Grab some popcorn, Don Stinson says. All right, you guys let me know if you can hear me all right. If audio video is okay. And we'll go from there. How you doing, young lady? Joel, that's good to know that it's loud and clear. Adam Hall, how you doing, sir? All right, well, I haven't been on for a few weeks. It's been pretty damn hectic. Um, a whole lot of stuff going on. Alex, how you doing? I mean, Alexei. It's been pretty hectic. There's a lot of stuff going on. A bunch of projects that need to be finished. As you're working on those things, you realize that you're behind on some technical knowledge, that you don't have this and that, and so on and so on. And then, of course, family, and then there's other things going on the legal front, and travels, and unfortunately, attending funerals, and on and on. So it has been pretty hectic. So today it's going to be kind of unusual. And again, I kind of decided yesterday that I will do this. On on a Tuesday evening. I wasn't sure because again we have very hectic time, a lot of stuff going on. We have court hearing coming up, and there's a lot of things to prepare, and on and on and on. Uh, Brian, how are you doing, sir? Barbarian, that you said that my volume is breaking up. A lot of static in the audio now. Hmm. Is it any better now, guys? Or what the heck is going on up in here? There shouldn't be much static, but because I really don't have anything here that would cause that in the background, audio is choppy. Well, that sucks. Hmm. Okay, let me see what I can do here really quickly. Hang with me. Uh, don't check out. You don't want to miss it. Uh, if you don't like me, this will give you plenty of reasons to dislike me for good. Okay, let's see here. What can be happening here? Let me switch really quickly the microphones and see what happens. Is the audio any better now? You guys have no. I switched to a different microphone. Video should be good. I just switched to a different microphone. Oh yeah, there's gonna be definitely. There's gonna be definitely feel better. And here's the thing, dude. Oh, you're saying the audio is worse? Great. All right, so hang out. I'm gonna very quickly restart the whole thing and be right back. Please don't leave. This is gonna be a fun day. Hang out. I'll be right back. Hello. Let's see here. Are we back or are we not? All right. So I suppose that's good. I can hear on my thing here everything is good, but I don't know what it's like and if it's coming through for you guys. Please let me know if audio, video is good. All right, that's good. Guys, so let me just, before I start going down the list of things that I did wanted to kind of talk about today, and it's mainly going to be in the form of a monologue. So uh, I may not be very interactive. So as far as your comments, I probably will see your comments. I may react to some. Uh, if some of it is just, bullshit off topic, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna waste time. So that's a little disclosure before we continue, right? All right. You guys ready? You think so? I guess I could say that I am sorry if this is gonna feel, maybe some people may feel like I'm talking about them. Uh, some of these people are my friends. Uh, some of them have been friends for 20 plus years. And maybe part of our interactions or whatnot have been, you know, a part of why I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And if for some reason you feel that it's undue or it's unbecoming or it's inappropriate or you feel butthurt or whatnot, you know what? We're all adults. Uh, it's, it's one of those things to where there's scriptural, there's biblical teachings, right? There are teachings we're going, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. And when it fits our narrative, we'll use that, especially if the person is saying things that are, you don't feel like these words are loving words, right? And you'll throw at person, you go like, hey, you're not living up to this. You're not living up to this loving your neighbor as you love thyself, right? It's interesting how manipulative we humans can be with verses from the scriptures or any other verses or any other sayings from wise people of the past or the present, the philosophers, the influencers, the people that maybe have shaped our worldview or opinions about topics. We will very selectively take shit that people have said and manipulate it and use it when it fits the agenda. And then very often we don't notice how we deviate from that because we are now outside of that set agenda. Maybe it's a totally different agenda. And then we say or do or implement contradictory things. And then, if it's been pointed out, God forbid, what do we throw at it? You being mean. You're not loving thy neighbor as you should love yourself. Matt Harmon, how you doing, sir? Long time. Blake Chin, brother, long time as well. Barbarian Dad, being honest is part of being a true friend, teacher. As I was telling my old friend, one of my old students, Mark, I don't want you guys in these series of monologues that I think I'm gonna do today. I didn't really prepare per se, you know. I kind of put down some things like bullet points because over last few weeks, even months, but especially over the last few weeks, I've been growing frustrated. And at first, I was attributing it to a very simple thing, and that very simple thing is that I do have an ashtray right here, but it's empty and it has been empty for 3 weeks now. I have not had a tobacco or nicotine or a patch or anything like that for 3 weeks. And there are days that are stressful days and I'm fucking craving it, right? And so I was like, man, I'm a irritable little bitch because I'm not getting my fix. But it's not just that. It's not just that I'm not getting my nicotine fix. I reflected on some things, and with time, what I've noticed, and I had that suspicion for a long time from a very different realm, from a very different field than, let's say, what we're going to start talking about here today, which is at first a little bit about our faith, our spiritual side of our lives, is that when you choose to dig a deep hole into some topic, uh, you get excited about something and you start going down the rabbit hole. Jude, how you doing, my brother? And at first, when you go down that rabbit hole, it's kind of like, you excitedly tell sometimes some people around you about what you found in those first steps down that rabbit hole. And it's human nature. At first, people, they're excited with you, right? They're like, oh, cool, man, and they participate in conversations. Week goes by, a couple of steps deeper in that hole, uh, finding things that you're finding in that rabbit hole a little bit, you can say a little bit more sharper terms. And all of a sudden you start feeling like you alienating people away from you. People start becoming less attentive. You start detecting what you suspect, that people get irritated with you when you start talking about stuff that became kind of your passion. You're digging into this shit that you go like, this is meaningful. Whether you're investigating Charlie Kirk's murder, or you're going down the rabbit hole of neurology, or down the rabbit hole of movement, or trigger press, or a fucking AI development, or flock cameras, or Jewish conspiracies, or anything else, right? You start digging, and your own excitement, your own kind of involvement in that is growing, but it's not just growing in size, right? And not only in depth, it's becoming more dense, right? And then you start seeing that even people close to you, they do have those moments where they irritated when you start talking about it. Like that meme where you have your wife or your girlfriend tied to the bed or strained to the bed, and you in front of a little easel, and you painting this graph of incredible complexity about the Federal Reserve, right? Let me tell you about it, right? And she's like, "Fuck, just bang me already. You already restrained me, right?" So what I found the most frustrating is that because of my over decades now dig down digging down the rabbit hole of, at first, our performance, our functionality in high density stress violent situations. Inadvertently, over time, part of it was time, part of it is me getting older, maturing. You know, I arrived at the point where it was no longer about what is happening without and how we affect that. But I did arrive in that very deep corner of the hole that I was digging, and it was very narrow, like the walls collapsed around you. That all the answers to your outward performance, all of them, not that it's fucking revolutionary news to any of you, and not to me, because I've been digging in this field at first as a child because I wanted to kick ass for 50 years. Then as a teenager, as a hooligan, as a bandit in Soviet Union. Then I saw true violence, and I saw people die. And I can't lie. First time I saw someone severely damaged, I'm talking like lifelong neurological damage from a hand-to-hand fight. I couldn't sleep that night. I remember the sound of what was happening inside that other human being's body. It was visceral. And you start questioning yourself. You go like, am I being a puss? Am I being oversensitive? Maybe I don't belong in this company of tough guys, of the bandits, of hooligans, of wannabe mobsters. And it's a process that you go through. This quote, isolation is the cost of clarity. I'll try to come back to it. Or actually, we should talk about it even offline, so to speak. But it's not that one-dimensional. It's not that one-dimensional. So, anyway, when I felt that I arrived at this point to where all the answers to the darkness, to the weakness, to the addictions, to the suffering that I cause upon myself and those around me through being lukewarm about things, by trying to avoid the conversations and then give myself a very logically sound explanation, otherwise known as an excuse, because I'm not a dumb motherfucker. I mean, I'm not smart, but I'm not dumb, right? So I come up with these fairly logical lines of thoughts, and I frame and put it damn well in my own head, right? And it becomes a logical explanation why I do or don't do certain things, why I act or don't act certain ways, say or don't say certain things. And then, inadvertently, if you don't get scared and you don't jump out of that hole that you started digging, you'll come to realization that all that you consider logic, that you work so hard to create, to justify your path, to justify your thoughts, to justify your words, action, inaction, whatever bullshit it is, these are excuses. It's such an elaborate plot of self-sabotage. For years, smoking doesn't affect me. I'm fucking in my 50s. I still outperform dudes in their 20s easily with a cigarette in my mouth. I don't need to quit. I'm good. Then I came up with a really, really cool and funny thing where people would giggle. I go like, if I quit smoking, I would be perfect. And the last perfect man was 2,000 years ago. I know, very blasphemous, but I try to use it as fun cop out, as fun kind of, like drop that, people will giggle and they'll stop asking fucking questions. Say, Sonny, what would happen if you would quit smoking? Would you be a better teacher? Would you be capable of doing things that you no longer may be capable? Because age does have it's an objective measurement. Age is an objective measurement. Just a couple of days ago or something, Guru Danilo Santo celebrated his 90th birthday. 90. And I've known Guru Danilo Santo for well over 20 years. Well over 20 years, actually closer to 30. And I can tell you that while he's very capable and able to move and impressive and all that, Danilo Santo today is not the same Danilo Santo that he was 20 years ago. It's just objective measurement that as our bodies become older, as certain things deteriorate, certain things no longer function the same way, capabilities get limited, we become different. That's not to say that due to our depth of knowledge, understanding, and all that, we don't have ability to replace it with something else to maintain the edge, to maintain the capability to handle whatever comes your way. But it's a natural thing, deterioration. So about 3 weeks ago, when I posted something about, I was talking about MAGA, about how we all want to change the world, how we want to make America first, make this country better, and we're all arguing and we're all putting our ideas about how China is the problem, how Islam is the problem, how this is the problem, how Democrats are the problem, how warmongering Republicans are a problem, how this is a problem. Everywhere, all around us, there are problems. Except where? What power do you have, any of us, to resolve the problems in the Congress? Yeah. Opinions will vary. Some pro-Israeli guys here will say like, oh, it's a good thing that they signed the fucking NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act for 2027, and its integration of Israeli and U.S., and it's going to strengthen our national security and this and that. Others, me included, will say, no, absolutely not. Right? Do any of us have any power to influence it? Vote? Do you really believe in that? So what's left? Do we just give up on everything? No. What is left is what you see in the mirror. It's you. That's what's left. If you want to change the world, press the me button. That's where it starts. And it's not like, it cannot happen if out of the 100, one looks at it and goes like, I'll press it. 99 others, they go like, no. The problem is out there. The problem is this. The problem is that. We need, or somebody has to do something to fix that. Meanwhile, here's a dude who's out of fucking shape, who's cheating on his spouse, who's cosplaying with expensive guns without ever being able to throw one decent kick or one decent punch, because he thinks that pressing the trigger and shooting them in the face will resolve all of his problems, who has close to zero of social literacy, who gets on internet and screams, fuck the Iran, make it into a parking lot, make it into a fucking mirror. Next day, he claims Christian values. The biggest hypocrisy is within us. The biggest hypocrisy within us, gentlemen and ladies. And sometimes it's very hard to admit that we are cowards. We are cowards because we will again create the excuse of I have to maintain the peace. I have to be nice because love thy neighbor as you love thyself. We're forgetting the other one, and that's number one. What's number one? Love your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. All. It doesn't say 80%. It says all. If we continue that thought, if we are to follow the word, somewhere in there, it says the following. If you love me, you will follow my commandments. Notice it says commandments, not suggestions, not general concepts. Commandments. It doesn't say you will partially adhere to my commandments. It says there's a word, follow. What does it mean, follow? Let's examine that a little bit, shall we? You know, over years, even with few of you who are here, we had some soft discussions about studies of the Bible, right? A lot of Christians in the West, and especially in the United States, subscribe to the thing. Sometimes it is referred in theological circles as sola scriptura, as in scripture only. All you need is a Bible. Basically, it's what it states. So I'm going to give you a uncomfortable example because a lot of you here, to some way, shape, to some degree, in some way, shape, or form, are followers or adherents of martial path of some flavor. Maybe you shoot guns, maybe you take classes, maybe you do some BJJ, maybe you do this, maybe you do that, maybe you attend classes every now and then, hang out with tough guys, you follow a number of killers on the internet and all that, and you repost cool quotes, you have some cool gear, cool guns, sometimes you post some cool videos and pictures, right? So, this may hit pretty hard. I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. To use your imagination, you should not look at the screen and see me because it's disturbing. I know, I get it. So don't close your eyes because then it's going to look like some kind of a fucking, cultish bullshit going on. But just hear me out and imagine this in your head. And then, if you can, in the comments, if you want to, tell me what would you say to that person. So let's say somewhere in history, there was this man who, by all accounts, and when I'm saying accounts, I'm talking cross-referencing hundreds of accounts of people that have seen him, seen what he can do. Few of them, like 12 of his senior students, I'm talking about this incredible martial artist who've lived many, many centuries ago. He had 12 closest students, lifetime students. They spent a lot of time with him. They trained all the time. They were corrected all the time. They made mistakes. Their master or teacher saw their mistakes. He corrected them. They didn't like it. And there were hundreds of others that crossed paths not only with those 12 lifetime students, but also with the Grand Master himself, right? They saw amazing feats of mastery that he has performed, right? somewhere further back the history lane, that great grandmaster apparently gained his skills and knowledge from someone else. Nobody really has seen that someone else, but apparently there are some writings written by some people, apparently, that lived before the great grandmaster whom we're talking about. But they were witnesses of something. They could not define it. They written some things, almost like philosophical things. But the first time that magical martial art was revealed to human eyes was when this said grandmaster showed up, the one who had 12 lifetime students. So those lifetime students, they wrote a lot. A lot of what they wrote can be cross-referenced. There are also some people that ran across maybe once or twice the man himself, or some students of his, or some of them met someone who was a student of the lifetime student 180 years later, and they wrote also some things interpreting the word of a student from the grandmaster, negating what, let's say, one of the 12 lifetime students has wrote. Let's fast forward 1,000 years. A lot of water has flown down the river. You find yourself in the place where you go like, I'm going to study this mysterious ancient martial art. Right? And how do you study it? And go like, well, there is a knowledge that was written. That's good, right? So you read the book. Which one? Do you read the things that were written by people before the grandmaster that finally showed the skills and understanding of what was said before it ever becoming, so to speak, flesh? Or you discount all that and you only read what's been written by 12 lifetime students, but then discount everything but those lifetime students to their own lifetime of studies with the grandmaster have discovered and understood, and maybe in some private conversations during private classes were shown, and they wrote it down, and then they passed it on to some other student, and that student devoted himself for his lifetime for 14 hours a day each day for most of his life in the cave, dwelling and practicing what was passed on to him, right? And he wrote things down. But that's not part of the original book. So here you are, 1,000 years later, very sure of your intellectual ability to dissect it all. And you go, all I need is sola scriptura. All I need is the original book. What others said that studied with him, that studied from his original 12, none of that matters. I will figure this out better than they could. All of those guys were wrong because some of their followers perverted the teachings and used that knowledge and used that influence of that knowledge to do bad things. That makes the teachings of, I don't know, John one of the 12 lifetime students of the Grand Master wrong. Because some of the students of John did some terrible things. They were criminals and they used their martial skill and knowledge for bad things. That makes everything that John taught and what he learned from a direct lifetime student, maybe, of the Grand Master, invalid. Here I am 1,000 years later, sitting on the rock, smoking a joint. I'll figure this out. Let me ask you a simple question. Who the fuck you think you are? It's a hard question. It's somewhat unfriendly question, potentially to some of you, to some of my friends, with whom I've broken bread and shared vodka. Seriously, who the fuck you think you are? That you give yourself a credit to be able to interpret and understand what is in the original book, rejecting what direct, so to speak, direct descendants of the lineages of the 12 disciples, direct lifetime students of the Grand Master, what they have written. In the sense of Christianity, that would be the 12 apostles, the desert fathers, simple answers like simple person just trying to survive doesn't do. It doesn't do. I'm sorry. That's a lazy answer. This takes serious reflection, guys. Because we're not talking here about the way to cut a piece of wood or to weld two pieces of steel together. We're talking about something much more fucking consequential upon our lives and everything around us. Who the fuck you think you are that you allow yourself to spout out to the world, that you can interpret it better at St. Paul, St. Peter, saying this, saying that. They were wrong. They walked with the man 2,000 years ago, but they didn't know shit. You here in 2027, figure this shit out, right? Imagine sitting, all of a sudden you're sitting at a table while you're spouting that shit to some of your friends. Poof! Shit happens. And there's Jesus at your table. Try to imagine that. That thought fucking scares the fuck out of me. Morbidly. And then we come to this. In Christianity in general, you can look at things and you say that there are two cardinal commandments within Christianity. Love your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Some people will say neither one of them has supremacy. I submit to you, it's not about supremacy, but one supersedes. Because 5 of the commandments are about your relationship with your God. 5 of them are about your relationship with your fellow man. Which one takes precedence? God. Always. And if you cannot get over it, you have pride problems. What is pride? If you pray, and you pray a lot. And in your prayer, you feel like it's honest prayer. It's real. You're not faking it. That's good, right? But then you brag about your prayer. No, man, you don't know prayer. I know prayer. Your pride just made your prayer a sin. You know, I sometimes laugh because there are so many people when we start arguing, and I'll get to this next point about different denominations. I'm an Orthodox. I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm a Coptic. I'm a Southern Baptist. I'm a, and that's a separate thing where, like Messianic Judaism or a Mormon, right? And people started having these discussions. You know, me being an Orthodox, a lot of people will throw that we use idolatry because we have icons right there behind me. You guys pray to idols. No, we don't. My friend Mark used the thing from English language thing, what prayer means, right? And then we interject that into selective use of quotation from the scripture, especially from the Old Testament. Selectively. Many of my students that have been to my classes, you heard me say that Satan deals in facts, but not the truth. Let that sink in. Satan deals in facts, but not the truth. If you take part of the truth and you make those things into self-contained, isolated facts, you can manipulate it. And you can manipulate it while holding and waving the cross and go like, in the name of. William, I read your comment, and I will say that to a certain degree, I understand. But I think you have misplacement of why we go to church. I don't go to church for other people. I don't go to church to find people that think like me. More than once in the scripture, it is said that the church is a hospital. That's where sick souls gather. I go there for grace. Whether there's no one there or it's packed like a barrel full of fish matters not. I go there for grace. And why do I go to church? People go like, well, he's ever present. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. You don't have to be in church to know God. It's an excuse. Because if you attentively read the scriptures and the Holy Fathers, the students of the students or direct students, I will build the church on this rock. Why? Why? The church is where we overcome ourselves. The church is where we become obedient. The church is where we make a fucking choice. You know, when it says that God created man in his image, you know what is the part of that image? It's a free will. God could have created us like robots with programmed love, with forced obedience in our software. He has power to do that. He had. He still does. You can even say that, you know, with the Adam and Eve, if they were not capable to reject God and disobey his will, then they would have been also incapable of truly loving him. If God removed the free will, the blessing and the curse of a choice from us, we would be like robots. We would obey commands, but we would not be capable of love. This is a hard one to fucking swallow. And I will go to say, even to seasoned Christians. This is a hard one to swallow to even seasoned Christians. Vodka, that's interesting observation, sir. You know, if you look at the tree of forbidden knowledge, you know, the apple, it was not some kind of like glitch or mistake that God made. It was the first example of showing a man a possibility of choice. Because without real choice, there is no real freedom. When people go, well, how you can call freedom if I make a choice? It's free choice. But I make a bad choice, I get punished. Are you fucking kidding me? Action and consequence are not sold separately. It's a package deal. You put the finger in the fire, it burns. You cannot go like, I'm going to separate what fire does to the flesh, but I'm just going to put the finger in there nevertheless. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I know it's weird. It's unfair. You cannot go in the fight and have a constitutional right or biblical promise to not get punched in the fucking face. It doesn't work like that. You may be lucky or very, very good, or both, and walk away without a scratch. But that's going to depend on a lot of grace, luck, and you doing the right thing. That's another very interesting observation, and that's another rabbit hole of generational, you can say, curse and other things that you can read throughout the scriptures. These conversations can be had for weeks, man. and they're cool, but that would take a lot of time from us doing what we should be doing, which is prayer. The real one, and sometimes the painful one, sometimes the physical one, sometimes the combination of them. Do good and let God. That kind of life. Without doing good, you cannot let God. Take a pause on that. Without doing good, you cannot let God. Yeah, that one stabs deep too. You know, those who challenge Christianity. It's interesting how they say if God is so loving, why did he create evil? God did not create evil. Evil is not the thing that someone made. You know what evil is? It's the absence of good. And that absence of good happens when we misuse that God gave to us as rational beings. Rational, why? Because he created us in his image. He's very rational. Rational beings take accountability. Rational beings understand very well that actions come with consequences. Rational beings also accept the weight of consequences when they come. When we become irrational and we start blaming that which is without, not within, for what's happening to us, we are no longer rational, and that's how evil starts happening. It's not God that puts the evil into our realm, into our life. It's we who allow it to happen by not doing good. How do I become sick? By not doing shit that keeps you away from being sick. How do I become weak? By not doing shit that keeps you strong. That's the target when I shoot. By not doing shit that you should be doing in order to hit the target. You feel me? It's kind of unforgiving path. It's brutal. Where's the love in that brutality, right? That is exactly what's in it. It's love. So when we apply the standard to those around us, where our love becomes what we say unconditional, that's a very cheap cop out. Love is demanding. Love is not unconditional. The hardest part about love is to find it within yourself, not to give it to others. Your loved one pisses you off. They do something that you inherently feel like this is fucked up. It's hard to find within you that love, right? Because your loved one, since you spend time with them and you are soulmates, so to speak, and so on, blood, your children, your grown up children, they should know better, right? Yet they don't. And then you become nasty and you punish them because they should know better. Yes, they failed. That's something. If you're right, if you're correct, they failed. That's something they will have to deal with. Point it out. It's not a wrong thing to do. and then shut the fuck up. That is a very hard thing to do because we want to ramble. We want our righteousness to continue to become a pressure on them because that noise suppresses understanding of what? That I'm too fucking weak to bring out that love for my neighbor. By the way, this is not a sermon. This is not a sermon to others in any way, shape, or form. I'm actually recounting my own experiences here of fucking up, of failing to love, of allowing anger and disappointment and other things of what I think others have done wrong to take over, to punish, to avenge, to show them that, hey, let me dig this shit in. How do you like it now? The vengeance is mine, he said. Oh, how this is being misused. Separate the vengeance from action. It's not wrong to say the right things. It is wrong to say the right things with the wrong intention. It's still the same thing that you said, but your aim is not the same. And Alex, and that's the thing, to love is to shut up sometimes, especially when you know you are right. Yeah. And then the wise man said nothing. There are moments, very, very few in between, very, very few and far in between, when you find yourself that you acted as a wise man, and it's amazing. And sometimes almost it happens accidentally, not because you have the willpower and obedience, but it's almost like an accident. But it's amazing. Man, if we could reproduce that every single time when something pisses us off or something happens or whatnot. Man, that'd be something. Whew, that was a long monologue on that, wasn't it? Goodness gracious. And some of you guys are still here, didn't run away. Holy shit. That's surprising, actually. That's shocking, if you ask me. I appreciate that. I really do. Obviously, we're kind of switching now a little bit to some other topics. So when I posted about 3 weeks ago, the thing where I said, about MAGA, and then I said abbreviation of MYSA, make yourself second again. So yesterday I had a chance to start listening to an interview that Tucker Carlson had with Sean Ryan. I'm assuming most of you probably to a certain degree know who both of these gentlemen are, both Tucker Carlson and Sean Ryan, two of the biggest names in the podcast, the non-legacy media space, so to speak. It was very interesting. This is the first time where I saw Sean Ryan being, how would I say, he was glitching. His mind was glitching. His language was glitching. He talked a lot less than he usually does. And you could see that certain things have happened. And then he goes over in a little bit, not in full detail, that because of certain things, a number of conversations he had, and hundreds of different guests that he had, and then realizing that he actually he's influencing big things. When he had he had Pete Hegseth on his show. And they were talking, and because Sean Ryan's past, being a former Navy SEAL and all that, he was asking Pete Hegseth about, what would you do if you were Secretary of Defense? That's because before it was still Department of Defense before it became Department of War, right? And 5 days later, after that, Pete Hegseth was offered the job to be a Secretary of Defense by Donald Trump. And Sean was talking about it. He goes like, man, I felt powerful because Pete Hegseth at one of the event thereafter kind of looked at me, pointed at me and goes like, thank you. He goes like, and I'm like, to a certain degree, I guess you can say that he felt probably to a certain degree like a kingmaker. My word, my opinion, my show has so much influence that it changes people. It makes people make decisions or consider things. And that puts people in the positions where they wield a real power. So anyway, I would highly suggest you guys listen to that episode. It's a 2-hour episode with on Tucker Carlson Network. And it's an interview with Sean Ryan. It's really, really interesting. I'm actually looking forward to see where Sean Ryan goes from here, because the way he was talking, it was very interesting as to what he thinks his direction from here on out will be. So time will show. But here's the thing. So Sean Ryan said, I came to realization that everything is a lie. And you kind of go like, whoa, that's pretty fucking heavy statement here. Everything is a lie. So if everything is a lie, then what? Is there truth? And where, if there is? And then Sean Ryan goes like, well, where do you look for the truth? And he kind of points behind Tucker Carlson. He goes like, it's in that black book. And that's scriptures. That's Bible. What is the biggest truth in the Bible you think there is for us humans when we start our path, true path? To be a Christian. What is Christian? It's a Christ-like. To be a Christian is to do your best to be Christ-like. I want you to think about the gravity of that statement, to be Christ-like. What does it mean? I think one of the biggest things, and a lot of people over time have pointed it out, one of the biggest things that we can find in the scripture is that people say it's repeated hundreds of times in there. I haven't counted, but apparently it's 364, 65 times, like once for each day. That his apostles, when they wrote his words, have mentioned him saying in one form or shape or another, do not be afraid. Don't have fear. What does it mean? What does it really mean? So then many who claim to be Christians they will say the following. Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Sean Ryan, first of all, they are imperfect Christians. They are babies in Christianity. What do you think? You're a senior in Christianity? You think you have canonical wisdom? You think you studied theology for the past 20 years and you read every single possible edition of the Bible you can lay your hands on in the language you can read, or translate it into language you can read? So now you're going to claim that you are an expert theologist. You know theology. What is theology? Theology is knowledge about God. So you can read, I'll take an example. You can read a lot of things about, let's say, I don't know, fucking, let's take some name from Marshall. You can read a lot of things about Bruce Lee. Let's take music. You can read few books and personal accounts and unofficial autobiographies about, I don't know, Jimmy Page or Maynard or Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, right? Rich Elby, I'll disagree with you, sir. Separate conversation. Bart, and Ethiopian Bible, that's again another rabbit hole that be careful. How would I tell you, Bart? It's like this. I studied for a number of years under Vladimir, right? And I'm in no way, shape, or form comparing that to walking with Jesus. No, that would be so blasphemous. But I'm just giving very, very simple example to kind of show analogy, right? Was I one of the 12 apostles? Well, I wouldn't say so. But at some point, I was considered one of the senior instructors in Systema. There were others. Number of them went their own way. Some of them reinvented Systema, and presented a better version of it to the world. You feel me? It is said that tree is known by its fruit, not by its looks or the sound that it makes when the wind blows. When I look a lot of people that reinvented Systema, what Vlad teaches, and then I look at the fruit that fell from those trees, it leaves a lot to be desired. Am I saying that all of those who stayed as much as possible true to what Vlad and Misha were teaching didn't make mistakes? Oh, hell no. A lot of mistakes were made. I made a lot of mistakes. I came back to the tree recently, planned to stay there for a while. But you know what it takes? Making yourself second. But in Western society, something that I practiced and preached for a number of years as an avid reader, and I wouldn't say follower. I was never blind follower of really any writing of what I would call regular human beings, be it Jordan Peterson or Ayn Rand or philosophers or Seneca or Aurelius. It doesn't matter. But I was strongly influenced by extreme individualism coming from objectivism from Ayn Rand. And I touted it. I was fucking like, yeah, baby. That's what makes it special. The Virtue of Selfishness. Remember for how many years I recommended that book? I still recommend it because there's a lot to learn from it, but not necessary to follow it. What Virtue of Selfishness is, if it's put in the context of true Christian values, you can learn a lot from it. If not, it can be very destructive. So again, when I see a lot of Christians that figured out Bible by themselves because they're past 20 years, and then they go on and they say, and Rich, I mean, if you take it personally, brother, it is what it is. You know, Ryan is a charlatan and farce. Episode 187, how many episodes he has out now? So what you're saying, some time ago, Sean Ryan had certain things to say that exposed them as less than ideal. In the eyes of what? A veteran? Is the veteran a chosen category, like chosen people from certain part of the world? Is the veteran possessing some kind of a fucking wisdom that the rest of the people don't? And he has a right of a special judgment on the fellow man, a fellow veteran, to call him a farce? Rich, what if I told you that most veterans are farce because they fucking talk shit about the glory days when they jumped on the airplanes and did that shit and did this and that, but then they'll have very kind of like tear-jerking story. I injured this, I injured that, I injured this. Thus now I'm not doing shit. But I have glory stories to tell you. Listen to me. Because in my past I was something. Man, that's nasty to say, isn't it? I'm a veteran, brother. If I'm only sleeping and claiming on my laurels what I did here and there in Ocean, Fergana, in Karabakh, or other places, the fuck am I worth? I'm a storyteller. I should write a script and make a movie about it. That's all I'm worth. These are dead words. They're not deeds. I told you guys I'm going to lose some friends today, right? I wouldn't say that I don't care. But I will say this. You know how evil happens when we avoid doing good. How do we avoid doing good? By accepting the lie. How do we accept the lie? By omitting parts of the truth. The truth sometimes is very painful. You know what it is to have courage? To not be afraid, as we are being taught in the scripture. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to be wrong. If your aim is to be right, if your claim to fame is, as I've always been saying, don't be afraid to fail. Because when you fail, you can learn from it, or you can proclaim yourself to be a victim because something made you fail. Not you, something or someone, or combination of the above. It's never you, right? I can't do this because I'm old. I can't do this because I'm tired. I can't. Hmm. Imagine if Jesus said that. And Alex, I'm not here to shatter any views. I'm trying to frame my own, man. I don't have power, experience, or wisdom to shatter views. I just want to encourage dudes, especially dudes that claim that they want to become tough. Warriors. To get the first ingredient. And that first ingredient is courage to examine yourself, your own views, what's inside of you. If you don't have that courage, everything else is moot point. Absolutely moot point. We need to stop being afraid to be corrected. We should actually welcome when someone or something humbles us. I'll go further. We should welcome when something or someone embarrasses us. I was fairly recently embarrassed by my wife because me and her were at odds about certain things, and I'm not going to disclose it's personal shit. None of your fucking business, so to speak, right? But I was thinking about this one specific topic that, she's wrong because she's suspicious, because it's this, it's that, and she's always going for the negative, which I'm still of that opinion that my wife sometimes shoots for the deep corner of the most negative possibility. But in this specific case, she embarrassed me because she was right. And it was good for me. I fucking didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. Bart, my brother, you signed up for a lifetime of studies. You're going to be called out so many times. And many times when I call you out, I want you to realize this. I'm not calling you out, I'm calling both me and you out. You know how selfish it is of me to have lifetime students? I have you guys next to me to share the weight of the load of how fucked up I am. Fortunately, when I pointed out how fucked up I am, it applies to you guys. So I'm using strength of your shoulders to help me to carry the weight. How fucked up is that, Bart? kind of like a church, you know? Weird, isn't it? Weird. So anyway, when I got on my friend Richard, who's been to my classes, you know, who's an old broken dude, a veteran with injuries. Bard, don't say Sonny's apostles. That puts way too much weight on me and you. We are not at that level, my man. We are not at that level. We are way downstream from apostles, way downstream. We can use the funny, you know what I mean? Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm already starting to write. I started to write the book, The 11th Commandment. It's kind of blasphemous, right? Marketing, you know. Sometimes you have to use that little shock value to get to people. To say something that fucking hurts, that fuckings. To call it out. Like very often sitting in church and Father Barry or any other father of any church that I go to starts doing the sermon. And I'm like, dude, why are you talking about me? And not in a flattering way. You know? And the thing about it is that sometimes it's not that he uses his words, he uses it directly from the scriptures. Directly. It's like it was written about me. It was. It really, really was. Okay, let me shift the direction a little bit because this is, I'm sweating because it's heavy. And I had to turn off the AC in this building, and it's fucking hot here in East Texas, guys. And once I turned on the AC, I think now inside here is what is outside. It's like 80 something degrees. So I'm sweating like a whore in church. Oh well, what are you gonna do? So let me shift directions. We claim Christianity, we claim principles, we claim this, and then we jump on people like, again, be it Candace Owens or Sean Ryan or whatever, or Tucker Carlson. You know, many of my Orthodox friends, they go like, "Oh man, that's disappointing." You know, Candace and Sean Ryan, it seems like they're going in a Roman Catholicism way, right? Would I prefer that they went to Orthodox? Yeah. Is it my plan? It's not. Here's Bart Stewart, who was there with me and few other guys where something pretty amazing happened 3 years ago. Was I disappointed that Bart went into this part of Christianity that I'm like, don't do it, brother? Nevertheless, he did. Yes, I was disappointed. Still am. It's not my plan. If that part was not in his plan, Bart would have not been there with me 3 years ago. It's part of his journey. It's specifically tailored to him, and it's not tailored by me, by something much bigger than me. I've been used as a little tool for a moment there, for something to happen, something to be shown or exposed, and that's it, and it's no longer my business. Bart now made it my business because he became a lifetime student. Crazy him. So now he's my business again. Damn. Bart's probably going, shit. Can I get a refund? Yeah, you can. You know, my wife Megan, she listens a lot to Candace. I don't listen so much to Candace. I sometimes do. Not like full episodes or whatnot, but like outtakes. I listen more to Carson Tucker. And the other day I was thinking about it. No, it's interesting. To me, Carson talks more about more big picture cardinal issues. Candace is more like nitpicking. She goes into this thing and she goes like, aha, here's what this guy did, here's where this guy went, here's what this guy talked to, and this guy is connected with that guy. She's truly an investigative, crazy woman. I think my wife calls it something, something. Megan, if you want, put on in the comments what you call it, like snooping something, you know. But it's amazing the shit that Candace digs out. And it shows quite a few things. And here's the thing, she's asking a lot of questions. I'm not presuming that all of them will be answered in the way she thinks, where she's like, she's like, I'm suspicious about it. So it's not necessary that all of her suspicions will be proven to be right, but to deny that it's part of how things should be looked into by asking questions and not being afraid to be wrong, I have news for you. That's very un-Christian. So yes, I stand with Candace. Again, I'm more into listening to a bigger picture stuff of stuff that Carson talks about, and then there are other things that I listen to, obviously, when I have time, which I don't have much, but every now and then, especially if we travel or whatnot, or sometimes when I get tired of doing my shit, I'll put something else. But God bless Candy Owens. Here, I said it. I'm in her corner, including things that she's investigating, asking questions about Charlie's killing, about emotional asset Erica Kirk. Alex, you correct. She's like a very persistent chihuahua that just won't stop in the best possible way. Yes. Yes. To me, she's digging into details of evil being done in certain places, of lies being told. Tucker, he's more like a view from further away through binoculars, like what is the picture of it? And that's also the difference between men and women. If any ladies are out there, please confirm or deny. I'll probably hear about it from Megan, but yeah, that's okay. I'm used to it. And then both Candace and Tucker are being called anti-Semitic, Jew haters, Putin's propagandists, and all this other fucking absolutely stupid shit. Unreal. Unreal. You know, it's interesting. You listen to some of the most pro-Israeli, let's level Gaza, Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and all these guys are fucking basically angels. And IDF is the most moral military in the human history. And there was no genocide in Gaza. And what's going on in the West Bank now is just a bunch of hikers, Jewish hikers, you know, going on the hike, being attacked by savage Palestinians and killed after taking away the M4 from a military guy who's going on the hike with those Jewish settlers. Huh? Huh? What? Dwight says that he's losing a signal in mountains of Utah. I'm wondering if it's him, or is the video and audio is okay for the rest of you guys, or is it just Dwight, or is it actually coming from the source? Just please let me know before I continue, because we're going to go a little bit longer about Israel, about Jews, about Lindsey Graham, about Ukraine, and about Russia. So this is going to be long. I hope some of you stick around, and if you don't, good night. Let me know about the signal, guys, audio, video, and all that shit. Whew. Damn, I've been talking for a long time. Don Stinson, 5x5. Thank you, sir. Hey, Bill Waite, I didn't know you even on. Good to see you, brother. So anyway, conspiracy theories, right? All these people like Tucker and Sean Ryan and Candace and myself, I'm obviously not in the same category of level of influence and on and on and on. Yeah, speaking truth. Yeah, there's a lot of videos out there that been buried pretty deep. Some of them deleted, but there's quite a bit of what's being done in Lebanon and a few other places. Quite a bit. Yeah. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about it, but not necessarily about what's going on in Gaza or even Lebanon or Iran. Anti-Semitism. Such a heavy label. It's scary to be labeled as anti-Semitic. Do not be afraid. Now, if you live in Europe, if you live in Canada, that may come with actually very real consequences. Very real consequences. But so far, for now, and I don't know if it's going to last long, if I am to guess, it won't last very long. So far here in US, we can still to a certain degree speak about it. So there's these conspiracy theories, right? That certain segments of the population in Israel and people that identify as Jewish, chosen people, they actually, most of them, and there are different estimates, but that's anywhere between, 20 to 50% of people that say they are Jewish, they come from certain parts of Europe. Their origins can be traced mainly to Poland, Western Ukraine, Lithuania, my homeland. Funny, isn't it? It's interesting that one of the loudest voices and the most annoying fucking faces in the podcast sphere, certain dude named Ben Shapiro, as I call him, Shitpiro. Okay? He's from Lithuania. His family originates from Lithuania. He doesn't talk much about it. It took that crazy ass Candace to bring that up to the surface. But Ben is walking around there with his little fucking yarmulke, with his little hat, screaming how every time we do something that's not in the best interest of Netanyahu, we are being Nazis. We want elimination of all the Jewish people. Then there is this douchewagon Rabbi Shmuley. Look at his background. What was his relationship to the king of pop, Michael Jackson? Yeah, we can talk about his daughter selling fucking kosher dildos there in Israel and all that shit, while he's talking about morality and his two sons are in IDF leveling Gaza, the heroes, you know, and he's crying about being attacked by anti-Semitic dogs everywhere he goes because he provokes people. He's a little fucking asset of Mossad, probably. He pushes and pushes and pushes, being the most annoying, obnoxious shitface out there. And information is being connected, and I'm giving him that. I'm giving him comments that are very, very nasty towards him, so I can be charged with hate speech when they finally pass it. People go like, whoa, that's terrible. Why would you do that? Is that stupid? No. Once they pass that, it's no longer time for mostly peaceful. I don't give a shit what they're going to charge me with. So, what is interesting is to look at some of the Hasidic Jews and then some of the things that, the Shabbats, things that Shmuley belongs to, and, they presenting themselves as these institutions of 3,000 years ago of chosen people that come from Torah and all that stuff. But if you start looking at the history of it, when things were established and by whom and where those people hailed from, again, from certain parts of Eastern Europe, some of the most extreme ones, it happens to be from Western Ukraine, Poltava, Lvov. Some of you who doing some shit, you may recognize that these are the areas where Bandera comes from, where Ukrainian Nazis come from, where 50% of the most rabid Nazis of Azov battalion come from. But if you talk about it, you're anti-Semitic. You're a dog attacking Jewish people. You want another Holocaust. You support Iran and you want Israel wiped off the face of the earth. That's what they tell you. And you're supposed to go like, shit, I don't want to be labeled like that. I don't care how these people label me. because these are people of lie. They are not people of promise. They are not chosen people. Maybe they are chosen, but I'm not even questioning chosen by whom. I will tell you whom they're not chosen by, not by him. Take that. Oh, Bill, you should not say that because Aryan Mafia doesn't exist. Just like the Mormon Mafia doesn't exist. Now, that's a whole other deep dive to go into Candace Owens' book club, reading club. And when you start looking and going over certain things all the way to the creation of this country, man, shit gets heavy. So when Sean Ryan says we're told is a lie, we kind of go like, well, he's exaggerating. He's not. He is not. "99% of what we were told about the history, about the creation of this nation, certainly about the creation of modern state of Israel. 99% of you being told what's going on in Ukraine, in Russian war, are lies. They're not slight deviations from the truth. They are outright fucking lies. Those of you who have seen the movie Devil's Advocate, Al Pacino plays the devil. Coincidentally, he's a lawyer. And then he asks Keanu's character, a young lawyer, he goes like, tell me that the 20th century, all of it didn't belong to me, as in Satan. And that brings me to another very interesting concept. CatchCon. It's basically, it's a concept that you can find in some writings, Eastern Orthodoxy. And basically, it refers to as a restraining power. The supposition is this: that when the communist revolution happened in Russia in 1917, when Tsar Nicholas and his family, Romanov family, were executed in basically a satanic ritual, that was the removal of the restraining power that existed for almost 1,000 years through Russian Orthodoxy in Russia. Some of you will say that's a very narrow view because, I'm obviously not. I'm biased, right? There is a terminology in Russia that after the fall of Rome, so to speak, after the Great Schism, and then what happened with Constantinople, Russia became, as they say in Russia, Новый Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem. Now, if you look at evolution of Orthodoxy in Russia, it's amazing study. It's very controversial. It's interesting, like certain leaders of Russia, like Peter the Great, are celebrated mostly by Westerners, but a lot of Russians see him as a huge catalyst of corruption of Russia into the impurities of a very dirty, corrupt, I would say Western European, but mainly French aristocracy of the 17th century. With the death and execution, satanic execution of Romanov family, that restraining power, that restrained Satan's influence, the deceiver's influence upon humanity, has been removed. What happened after? USSR. You want to look at people who were at the roots of communist revolution? You want to know who they are? It's very interesting. It really is, guys. You know, 1918. Obviously, the leader was Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. You can absolutely look up his ethnic tree, so to speak, Vladimir Lenin. Look it up. You may find that something to do with Jewish. And then in 1918, they established basically like a Politburo. Back then it was called the First People's Commissariat. And the people on that, there were 5 of them. Uritsky, a Jew. Trotsky, a Jew. Zinoviev, a Jew. Sverdlov, you guessed it. Kaganovich, a Jew. Coincidence? Karl Marx, Levi Mordecai. Check that out. Vladimir Lenin, Ilyich Ulyanov. Check it out. Joseph Stalin. Not Russian. They say Georgian. But check it out. Dig a little bit deeper. Leon Trotsky. Bronstein. Check it out. So you think you know history? Do you? It's staggering. It truly is staggering, the amount of lies that have been pushed upon us. And we're supposed to live with it and accept it and don't question it, because that breaks the unity. Some people say what Tucker and Candace and those people are doing will break the system and make us lose the election. Us, meaning conservatives, meaning Republicans. We deserve it. By the way, I don't belong to that we anymore. Because we, the people, have been betrayed. The liberals betrayed everything long time ago. By the way, Republicans have not been faithful to we, the people, for just as long. It's just that we, the people, we wanted to have hope. We want to believe that there's good, that there's something inherently good within our system. Event today in a rotunda in the capital of the United States of America. There's a casket draped in American flag, supposedly containing a body of certain Lindsey Graham. Did I miss it? Or is that a closed casket? Would that be a conspiracy theory? Because remember when Lindsey Graham died after short, unexpected disease, literally hours upon returning from Ukraine, which, if you check the timeline, what it takes from Kiev to get to Poland, from where, because you cannot take off and fly from Kiev. It's not happening. So you have to take a train to Poland, get on the plane after being transferred to the airport, then fly from there to United States. If you check the timelines, it could have not happened. There were some absolutely crazy conspiracy theories that Lindsey Graham potentially could have died in less than peaceful ways and not in Washington, D.C. They go like, hey, there's a coroner's report. They did an autopsy. They wouldn't lie to us now, would they? But we have a closed casket. It's interesting. Lindsey Graham, who just recently, and I posted a short video, made a phone call with Bibi, with Netanyahu. And he said the following: I'm so happy to be your friend. It's amazing what you guys are doing in Lebanon, referring to bombing of Lebanon by the most humane and by the most moral military in the world, Israeli Defense Forces. And he goes, Lindsey Graham goes like, I'm going to go see President Trump this week, and I'm going to fly to Doral, which is in Florida, which is where the golf course is. And then he asked Bibi, he goes like, would you like to fly, for us to fly with you? Like he's talking about flying a fucking kite in the backyard. But what he's implying is U.S. Air Force joining the bombing missions over the Lebanon with the most humane and moral IDF, bombing many of the Christian villages in Lebanon. Because it's all Hezbollah there. You, Christians, are you aware that some of the villages in Lebanon, when they were being attacked by ISIS and or IDF, it was those savage Hezbollah fucks that provided protection and helped evacuation of the Christians from those villages. People go like, oh, so you like Hezbollah now? If you were that fucking stupid, get out of here. Just remove yourself. No, I don't like Hezbollah. I'm not a fan of Islam. Certainly not Judaism. There, I said it. Does that make me anti-Semitic? I don't think so. So we don't know what's in that casket because it's closed. And I could be wrong. Maybe they'll open it tomorrow in South Carolina. And then I'll be proven wrong, and then I'll feel stupid, and I'll be humbled, which is good for me. But I'm just asking questions. That's all. You feel me? So anyway, Mr. Graham died after short, unexpected disease upon returning from Ukraine, where he visited a certain drone factory. Uh, Interestingly enough, the company is called Skyfall. You know what else is called Skyfall? NATO has designated as a Skyfall a certain missile, now functional missile, within a Russian aerospace forces. In Russia, it's called Burevestnik. It's a nuclear armed, nuclear powered missile, cruise missile, with unlimited flight time because it has nuclear reactor as its engine, as its power source. Anyway, so Skyfall was visited by Lindsey Graham, and Skyfall was also visited very recently by one other favorite person of mine, uh, the character from the Saw movies, Looney Laura Loomer, or Larry Loomer, or whatever gender that creature is. So Laura Loomer went to the same factory, and she's holding the same drone, the same model of drone that Lindsey Graham held just hours before his death in Washington, D.C. True story. And she talks about it, how she would, how she feels honored to hold this drone. And then she goes like something along the lines that I'm paraphrasing. She goes like, and this very drone that I'm holding in my hands will be killing Russians soon. That hoe with the Jewish little amulet on her neck. Interesting enough, when she's filming that, that's what she wears. She has access to the president. People go like, well, what's the problem here? Charlie Kirk had access to the president. Anyway, let me close it out. It's been 2 fucking hours. So let me just give you something actually probably most of you have not thought about it in that way. And that would be the last topic of tonight's long episode of monologues. And that would be the war in Ukraine of Russia versus Ukraine. Well, let me paraphrase it. Russia versus the whole NATO. And more than just NATO. I'm not going to go back into history. I posted the video from 2014. July 27 was an anniversary of what happened in just outside of Donetsk. Look at it. Listen to it. I have some very graphic pictures of the things that they're talking about the torso of the kid without arms and legs, with the wind blowing and his hair still being moved. But he has no limbs left on him. This is 2014. That's 8 years before the unprovoked illegal invasion. Knock, knock. Who's there? Um, but anyway, so a lot of things have happened. CIA bases, CIA stations right on the border, many things, conspiracy theories of biological labs, many other things, quite a few assassinations in Donetsk, if you remember, people like Motorola and a number of other people. Uh, of course, it was all done by Ukrainians only. There was no participation from MI6, SAS, CIA, or American personnel in organizing or possibly even executing some of that stuff. No, not at all. That would be all conspiracy theories. That we can't do that, right? But anyway, 2022, Russia does special military operation. People in the West call it full-scale invasion. You have not seen what full-scale invasion looks like. You have not. Because if it was, the numbers would be absolutely and incomprehensible. The cities in Ukraine would look like Gaza Strip. Most of the cities, to include Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, Kiev, Lvov. Notice I'm not saying them in the way Ukrainians want you to say it. Nevertheless, in 2022, at the meeting in Istanbul, in Turkey, Russia was willing to sign a peace deal right there. That peace deal was actually a pretty decent deal towards Ukraine. Certain Becker guy from England, who looks like Dumb and Dumber character, the dumber one from that movie, said, no, fight to the last Ukrainian. Don't sign it. You can get better deal out of this. Huh. Well, time goes by. At some point, Russia goes like, we're ready to sign the peace deal. But here's the thing. The front lines have moved. The land possession has changed. The strategic balance of power has changed. When I say strategic, I'm not talking front lines exchange, how many, of this being fired this way or this artillery going that way or how many drones or whatnot. No, strategic. What I mean by strategic is attritional long-term warfare. Who can sustain it? And the picture has emerged that Russia, singular country, can outlast, outperform, and outproduce a whole of NATO, 32 countries, in strategic assets used in the war. So Putin, being pretty damn naive, people go like, wait, Puzikas is criticizing Putin? Yes, I am. Here's why I'm criticizing him. He's naive because I don't know him personally, but I think he wants, sometimes to the detriment of Russia, he wants to believe the best as far as our partners in the West, as he refers to the West very often, or used to, have good intentions. Up until very recently, he believed the spirit of Anchorage meeting with Trump meant something. So anyway, coming back, there was an offer to go like, okay, let's go for peace. We will not push. We demand that you give us the rest of the territory of Donetsk Oblast. We will return certain areas of Zaporozhye, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkov, Sumy. We will return that. In return, we ask again the rest of Donetsk Oblast, and they even dropped requirements of limiting the size of Ukrainian forces. They said neutrality. Ukraine will not be part of NATO ever. Zelensky and his Western handlers look at it, they go, fuck it. We still have some Ukrainians left. I mean, thousands of them will snatch off the streets and send them right to the fuck not continue fighting, right? It's easy. They go, nah, don't take the deal. We'll fight, we'll see what happens, and then if things don't work well, we'll make a deal. You know, the art of the deal. Hint, hint. Seeking truth can, yes, you are absolutely right. It is a big element of Christianity in Putin's and or many members of the Duma and Russian population that restrains Russia from full-scale war. Yes. And Alex, when you say that's my biggest issue with Putin, too careful, not hard enough, I think our issue is that we're not wise enough. We are not wise enough to see what he sees. We're reacting emotionally because war is being protracted. More Russians are dying, more Ukrainians are dying, and as decent people will go like, shit, man, just finish it. Like number of people in Russia, they go like fucking 3 or 4 tactical nukes. They'll end it quickly. Make one of them close to the border with NATO, and yeah, I would guarantee you NATO will not respond. Putin is not going to do it. And it's kind of fucked up because you go like, man, but part of it is, and it's not to be looked positively at by Western partners. It has nothing to do with that. At this point, I believe Putin and the whole of Russian elites, so to speak, they have absolutely lost any trust into Western partners. Any. Not to be restored. It's final. So they didn't take that deal. Since then, Russia pushes further. Situation changes again. And now, Putin says, no, we are no longer interested in giving back any territory of Kharkiv Oblast, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporozhye, Sumy Oblast. None. We're going to take more. We're going to take all of Donetsk by force. We're not going to ask you to give it to us. We're going to take it by force. And if it takes a year, so fucking be it. And if it takes another 100,000 of our soldiers dying, Lord have mercy, so be it. And none of that is going to be even offered on the negotiating table anymore. You know, what's weird to me is that understand this, that unless we are talking a total warfare, which would include going nuke, and I'm talking on strategic level nuke, which at that point everything is irrelevant. Any war is basically accounts payable. It's a balancing sheet. So when you're waging war, it is managing the balance sheet. When you take territory, when you reinforce that taken territory, Okay. You are presenting the bill to the opposing side, payable by the opposing side. They no longer have a power to demand payment because you own something. They can try to take it back. And then there's a metric of time, how that's being managed within that balance sheet. With that time being managed and the West pouring billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars into Ukraine, what do you think it's doing? At some point, I'm going to do in-depth kind of analysis about that because it demands its own 2-hour thing. I cannot dedicate it to that now. But it's once you dissect it as the very cold math, removing the emotional, removing what people have become on the front lines. All of that. I'm not saying that none of that is important. It's very important. It's going to be painful on both sides of the conflict, possibly for generations to come. Certainly, even much, much more severe on the Ukrainian side. Lord have mercy on those people. But I will do the episode on this. And it's actually very uncomfortable when you dissect it like that and you look at it as a cold math, where math is calculated in billions of dollars, of thousands of lives, generations lost, and then who benefits. And that's where you know where the evil is. And I have news for you, my Western friends. The evil is not in Moscow. We are not the good guys in this story. We, I mean the West, we represent evil. Not only we represent it, we perpetrate it at the cost of, at this point, I can say millions of lives. Anyway, damn, some of you guys hung out with me for almost 2.5 hours. I really appreciate that. I'm so hot in here now, and my daughter is probably asleep because now every time I come back into the house, she goes like, Dada, lay down next with me, and it's kind of sweet. So I'm going to go and do that. Thanks for being here. I didn't push any classes. Take a look at the website. There's a lot of stuff coming up. I will do a separate episode about some training. I will explain certain other things, some changes. The book has been submitted. It's going back and forth because of some issues that I had with Adobe Acrobat and formatting, and the software is sending it back to me with certain mistakes. So we're trying to work through that. It's a matter of days now, and it's going to be out. And I'm excited about it. It's fucking good, if I say so myself. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate that. I won't apologize if I hurt some of your feels. If some of you think that, well, I considered him my friend, and here he comes out swinging like that, not holding back. Hey, what can I say? I'm a dick. I'm not a nice guy. I have to work on it a little bit harder, I guess, to love my neighbor as myself. But I don't like myself, so there you go. There's my explanation for you. All right, one more time. Thank you so much. You'll go get some rest or do whatever the hell are you doing. And hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday if I'm okay after the court. Hopefully I am. May God bless. And this has been episode 41 of Let Us Attend from Gospel of Violence podcast that came to you live from the woods of East Texas, Fort Honey Badger. Go check out my website at sunnypuzikas.com. I didn't even give out any shout outs to my sponsors. You know who you are, guys. I love to you. May God bless. Peace. It is, and for some reason, it's no longer responding.